And very good evening to you and welcome to Politics 101. A little bit of late start at some technical difficulties with my guest. But we are on and rolling as you know. Uh, this evening we are going to be discussing the land scandal there in Bedford-Wacton Triumph. We covered it last week, but I thought that this week we would try to get someone who's closer to the action to comment on it. And our guest this evening is Mr. Elton McCrae, who is a resident of BV. He's an activist, ACDA member. I'm not sure if he's a member of the council, but he will tell us when he got on it. But Elton, had been from the beginning an opponent of the land sale. I think he was one of the first persons to have exposed what was happening there. So Elton is going to be here this evening and is going to walk us through what happened there. That thing has become such a mystery. It has become such a scandal. It involves ancestral lands. It involves a misunderstanding of the property of a neighborhood council and the property of people in the neighborhood. There seem to be suggestions of impropriety. There is big business here involved. All kinds of stuff seem to be colliding. We'll get Mr. McCrae to walk us through. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening. I'm David Hines. Whether you're joining us from Guyana or you're joining us from further afield. If you're in the Caribbean, our Caribbean, welcome. Welcome to Politics 101. You know what to do to get people to know that we are on. If you're joining us from North America, welcome. Those of you who join us from the United States of America, from Canada, from North America includes Mexico. Many people think that Mexico is Central America. Culturally, Mexico is Central America or Latin America. But geographically speaking, Mexico is part of North America. I am sure there are Guyanese in Mexico. I know one young lady who's studying in Mexico, down there to the Caribbean part of Mexico, southern Mexico. So there are Guyanese all over the place. Welcome to Politics 101. I'm not able to see your comments. There seem to be an issue. StreamYard is telling us here that live view comments. There is an issue with live viewer comments. They've reported it, they say, to Facebook, and they seem to be working on it. I am not able to see your comments here this evening, so I can't see those of you who are here, but I know you're here. Those of you who are joining us through Facebook, those of you who are joining us through YouTube, and we have quite a following on YouTube. Welcome to you. Welcome to Politics 101. What we do here in the evenings is that we try to bring you information, bring you analysis, try to put that in the form of education, in the form of knowledge, in the form of mobilization. Welcome to Politics 101. As I said, I'm not able to see your comments this evening. There seem to be some problems, technical problems between StreamYard and the Facebook. They said they have reported it to Facebook, so hopefully it will be rectified as soon as possible. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening, wherever you are. This is our early week program. You know, we come on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Welcome to Politics 101, those of you who are joining us from Europe, from England. London Bridge is falling down. London Bridge is falling down. Liz Truss has become the prime minister who's been in office for the shortest period. 6 weeks, 42 days, 45 days or thereabout, and she's gone. She's gone. Came in with a lot of puff and huff and neoliberal agenda and tax cut for the rich, and the British people would have none of it. None of it. I've seen numbers where she 90% disapproval rating. That's phenomenal. But the neoliberal agenda, giving away money to the rich, raising taxes, cutting taxes to the rich. And there she is in the graveyard of British politics. Welcome to Politics 101. We West Indians, it's been a horrible couple of days for us. All of us, most of us are, into our cricket. Whatever has happened since 1995, when we were toppled from the pinnacle of world cricket where we had been for 20 years, the longest any team has won any team sport in the history of humanity was achieved by the West Indies between the mid-70s and the mid-1990s. Of course, we were spurred on in 1976 by Tony Greig, South African captain of England, who said he will make the West Indies grovel. And the thought of a white South African from apartheid South Africa saying that he will make some West Indian men grovel was enough to spur them on. And for 20 years, we ruled the cricket roost. But from 1995, when we were toppled by Australia to the present, our cricket has been more down than up, but we have stood with the team. We have stood with our cricket. But this recent debacle was too much to take, too much to take. West Indies not qualifying for a World Cup tournament for the first time, beaten by Scotland, beaten by Ireland, echoes of the old colonials whipping us and sending us back to the Caribbean. The coaches resigned and their calls for other resignations. I will have something to say about that because my view is that the problem is not the coaches. The problem is the players we are producing. It is the players are recruited from our society. And of course, players are no longer playing for their country. They're no longer playing for the region. They're no longer playing for the race. They're playing for themselves. Because we have grooved into this whole notion of money. Nothing is wrong with money. We all want to be rich. We want our communities to be rich. We want our families to be rich. But here we have developed a culture. I want wrong, let the man go and make money. Nothing is wrong with the man making money. But if you're making money at the expense of representing the dignity of your people, something is wrong. It's not the Caribbean way. We are not the British. We are not the Australians. We are the Caribbean. And I have to say that the T20 money-making cricket has changed cricket. It has changed cricket culture. But somehow or the other countries, they are able to get their players to balance making money as individual cricketers, but representing their nation with pride. We seem to be the only cricketing country where our cricketers take more pride in representing the franchises in India, in Bangladesh, in Australia, than to represent their country. our independence, our very independence is found wanting. And that's my take on this cricket thing. CLR James says the game goes beyond the boundary. We're not losing just what's happening on the cricket field. We are losing because something has begun to happen in our society off the cricket field. Welcome to Politics 101. Tonight we're going to be talking about some money story, the same thing that I'm talking about. I want to know where people are getting off selling ancestral lands, where people are getting off selling poor people land to rich businesses. Is that what we have struggled against, enslavement and colonialism? That at the end of the day, money is all that matters. Money matters. Money is important. What for? And at the expense of what? That is the fundamental question for our cricket, for our politics, for our governance, individualism and money versus nation and community and family. My guest tonight is Brother Elton McCrae from Bedford-Wacton. Elton I've known Elton forever. He is very much part of the Black struggle in Guyana, member of AGDA, prominent member of AGDA, member of the committee that was trying to get that monument at Parade Ground. And he is a community activist there in Bedford-Wacton. Elton, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. And how are you? And I should say
Well,
good
I'm
evening to
here
those who
doing what,
are listening.
yes,
Yes,
I'm here
continue, sorry.
doing what we always do. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I will not say like my Christian or religious brothers and sisters, I'm good. That's all I'll say. I'm good.
You know, we find ourselves, whether we are Christians, religionists or non-religionists, these days saying God is good. God is good all the time, you know. And some of us
Well,
who are not necessarily hard-beating Christians, we'll say God is good, but
you see,
sometimes,
I'm saying
sometimes
our
the effects.
ancestors, we need the guidance of our ancestors in these days. That's all I know.
Yes, yes. So Elton,
And
this
yes, my
BV
brother.
land story, it has gotten big. It has gotten legs. It has gotten wings. It is now a national story. What I want you to do is to help us. Are you a member of the council?
Yes, I am on the council as of
Yes, I
December
would imagine so.
2021. I was
Right,
installed onto the council.
right,
On
right.
the 8th of May, see, 8th of May happens to be the, the date on which our community started to be molded, Bedford-Wacton, and then triumph. 8th of May, 1838, our four parents bought Bedford-Wacton. So we feel in 8th of May that we need to go back and try to understand what was happening then, what the visions of our forefathers, to see how we can reflect it into today's society, to see where because we recognize that when our foreparents first bought this community, they made significant progress as a cooperative, I must say. You know,
And
I
of course,
emphasize
1823, your village there, the Congregational Church in your village, played an important role in that
yes.
1823 uprising.
So that's why we have Kwamena Street.
There you
You
go.
see, the thing is, we in Guyana, we are selling ourselves short and very short with regards to cooperatives. Because, Victoria, the first community or the first plantation that was bought, from the Europeans by Africans, enslaved, formerly enslaved Africans. It was a cooperative venture, and that would have been November of 1838. Note the date, my brother. It was long, at least 6 years before the Rochdale Weavers, the so-called initiators of presenters of cooperatives to the world. So, if Victoria existed before the Rochdale Weavers, BV existed before the Rochdale Weavers, where did cooperatives begin in the world? And it's not something that to say our people just stumbled on it. We must accept where did the concept come from, because if all the enslaved throughout the length and breadth of British Guyana, then our people were buying these abandoned estates as cooperative, means that they knew it from somewhere else, because the majority of those enslaved who were alive then, because our people existed 6 and 7 years. That's the average life of an enslaved on the plantation. So at the time of liberation, emancipation, 90% or more of them would have been coming directly out of Africa and not Creole persons. So they would have learned that cooperative idea somewhere else other than British Guyana. And I would put that back into Africa. And so it is because of that I want to feel that the former leader of this country decided that we must be the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
And that suggestion of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Brother Elton, was a suggestion of the UC Guyana, who, when asked by Mr. Burnham, when told by Mr. Burnham that he was moving Guyana towards Republican status, and I'm reporting Guyana, who's still alive,
Yes.
he asked Mr. Burnham what kind of republic, and Mr. Burnham did not have an answer, and he said, well, why not a cooperative republic? And according to Mr. Guyana, a few weeks later, Mr. Burnham announced on the radio, and ours shall be a cooperative republic. So we have to give some
social. Yes.
Right.
I'm putting it all in perspective. And there was another Bostonian involved in all of that. Our brother Tommy Payne. He did the research to show that the system that hinged our existence then was a cooperative system.
And we need to talk about BV, because a lot of people know about Victoria and Buxton and Queenstown and Belladrum and so on. BV is one of those villages that doesn't easily come off the tongue. It's a quiet place. I know BV quite well. A lot of BV people went to school in my time at Buxton Secondary School, at Guyana School there, County High School.
Yes.
And so we frequented BV, and for a small village, BV has really created, produced a lot of towering individuals in various areas. We know the late Henry Rodney in theater, Kwesi Ojinga and Kwesi, I think is your contemporary.
We are all contemporaries. We all, in fact, Kwesi, Henry, myself, we were in what we called Tribet Culture Club before those guys migrated to Georgetown. Henry, our Lorimer, all of them were in Tribet Cultural Club. That is Triumph Bedford Acting Cultural Club. So we had, and in those days we were saying, look, the theater art should mimic our society. And it is with that Kwesi and Henry went into Theatre Guild, and they were able to carve a niche into the theater, because what they did, as Kwesi once told me, Elton, I got there, and within a short order, I was training people in areas that I was not trained.
There you go.
And that groundings he got out of Tribet.
That's right. And what a lot of people may not remember, Elton, but I'm sure you do, the Box Gang, those Grant boys were one of the first, they belonged to one of the first group that recorded Kwekwe songs.
Yeah.
So it's very strong. And of course, in politics, we know EMG Coco Wilson, we know the PNC Minister of Local Government, his name is escaping me now.
Vibert Mingo.
Vibert Mingo, yes, and
We have had Balram Singh Rai.
Balram Singh Rai.
I have to. BV is a mixed community. BV Triumph, right? It's a mixed. So we have Indians of standing. We have Africans of standings that came out of this community. So when you look at the backland situation, this is also reflected there. That mix is reflected there. So it was kind of jarring when a PPP government minister said 2 weeks ago that it is a shame that the PNC are not there to stand up for its supporters. It was shameful because we are looking at supporters from across the political divide that whose lands were in jeopardy with this move by the council and John Fernandez.
So Elton, let's shift now to the story of the land. First question:
okay.
Who approached whom? Did John Fernandez approach the council to buy this land, or the council approached John Fernandez to sell the land?
The thing is, I am still to find out exactly who approached whom. The council, members of the council will tell us that John Fernandez approached them. But then if you look back into the records, which 99.9% of BV may not know, I'm privy to those records because I'm now on the council. You would see that there was an evaluation of the said lands 1 year prior.
And this is right? What year? This is what year?
Not 2020. These lands were evaluated. For what reason, no one can tell me yet. And I suspect also there was also a survey, but I questioned that and they said no, there was no survey, just the evaluation. But I'm pretty sure I saw a document where a surveyor, they said, oh, he just revised the maps and gave them, to do a division in one of those areas in section F to establish a housing scheme. He did not go on the ground to survey. So because of those two facts, I am not sure. Also, there's a third fact. The council held. Yeah, the council had. No, let me finish.
Okay,
the council did. What you call it? There was a press conference by the council, and there was another councillor alongside the chairman. That councillor said John Fernandez's proposal was the best proposal, which is an indicator that there were more than one proposals. And I then asked, why weren't there proposals to Buxton? Why weren't there proposals to Pleasance, Golden Grove? So it means it is telling me that someone on the council, if not the council officially, did send out a feeler for proposals.
You were not on the council at that time.
John Fernandez coming with the proposal. No,
you were not on the council at that time, Elton.
Were you on the council? I was not on the council.
So you came onto the council and met this thing. All right. So if we can say hypothetically that, and from what you are saying, it seems to me that the council most likely approached these people. Why would the council, what would have driven the council to sell lands in the first place?
That I am trying to ascertain, if that is so, because they are tight-lipped. Those involved, because when you look at the council, the entire council table, most of the people who are sitting at that table, barring 3 or 4 of them, knew what all the nitty-gritty of the situation. You ask councils, no, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. But some of the 3 on the council and the former CEO will give you an answer which they feel that you should accept. So within the council then, there was a council or is a council.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know 2 things I want to find out here. One, do you know whether there was any consultation with the villagers on this proposed sale? One, boom. The second question I'm asking you is, did the council, what was it difficult for the council to find out that these lands were owned by people of the village? And in fact, they were quote unquote ancestral lands. So one, is it difficult to find out where the land back of BV is ancestral lands owned by the people of BV, or they are crown lands? And secondly, um, as as I asked, did they do any consultation with villagers?
Now, I will answer the consultation bit first. Yes, there was consultation because when it was first proposed, from what I understand, one council said you cannot do this unless you consult the people because we need to have the community buy-in. Yes, so they called the consultation. I attended the first consultation, and I was told that consultation was intended for better acting. I'm from Triumph. However, there were only three of us, apart from a few council members there. We asked for the proposal that purportedly John Finance did. The overseer was not there to present that proposal. However, I asked in a general way about which land they intend to sell. And at that meeting, where there were three non councillors, in all we were 7 there sitting, I said to them that those lands are owned by people. They are privately owned lands. And also, I said at that time, the former chairman, Mr. Leland Harcourt, is fully aware of this. The PPP representative on the council, one of the PPP representative on the council, Mr. Comerbadge, should be aware of it. Also, another councillor, Mrs. Williams, should also, because why I say Mrs. Williams and Comerbadge should also be aware of it. When the RAID project was being formulated by the last administration, we got involved, several of us got involved in the RAID project. Rural Agricultural Infrastructure
Right,
Development.
and that was the project initiated by the Granger administration in
Yes.
BV, Buxton, Ithaca, and Mocha.
Yeah. Now, that project, for all intents and purposes, was designed to occupy communal lands or state lands. Buxton as state communal lands. Ithaca may have no. So the lands in BV, which the RAID project assumed may have been state lands, are not, because these lands in question, those that we are talking about, you said ancestral lands. Yes, they belong to our old or grandparents and parents, right? But these lands form part of the Crown Grant that were given to places like Buxton, Pleasance, Golden Grove in 1941.
Yeah.
BV, unlike Buxton, first leased those lands to farmers. Subsequently, they sold those lands to the farmers. As of 1947, they started to sell those lands to farmers. So if you check our records, you'll see that
from BV Triumph. Farmers from BV Triumph.
Yes, because they were first occupying it. And as I said, again, this is a concept from Brother Kwayana. He said, our villages had what we call the village civilization. And that civilizing effect included that where our African foreparents embraced other races or other, what is the other words you use for, we don't always say race, we see other people, ethnic groups, as they came to our communities. The Indians came to BV, most of them settled in Triumph, but they were embraced by our forefathers. So many of them were given the opportunity to farm on those lands also, like our African foreparents. So if you go to Section F and Section G, you will see significant numbers of Indian owners in those two areas. So Now, coming back to the project, the former chairman, when he was approached by the project, said, yes, we have communal lands, but he was referring then to what we call the dam beds. And there were a few beds. He did not understand the magnitude of the project. That's what he confessed to us later. But Mr. Arcourt was there when Mr. Adams made that confession. But he agreed at that point that all the lands, as I would have known before, are privately owned. So at that point, even if Mr. Arcourt, who is not a villager, did not know, he heard Mr. Adams pronouncing that all those lands, that we cannot do like Buxton with the rate project, we will have to make advances to the farm owners of those lands to see how we can incorporate the lands into the rate project. So the advice then was to establish a co-op. That co-op was, the chairman of that co-op was Mrs. Williams, and the secretary of that co-op was Mr. Cumberbatch, both of whom were acceded to the council. Now, what happened after? Well, Mrs. Williams, she is not a baronian, so she asked the question, when we get it in the co-op, because people may want to have their own piece, even though it's a co-op. Eventually, may want to identify. We said to Mrs. Williams, those lands are owned by the people of BV Triumph. They are privately owned, so we will have to get those people on board, and the co-op will be a facilitating co-op. Believe it or not, when Mrs. Williams and Mr. Cumberbatch heard that, they both abandoned the co-op. The secretary and the president, they never called another co-op meeting. The documents for the co-op were ready to uplift, and it was, they didn't, when I inquired, they understand it, the people were willing to give it, to hand it over to some of the rest of, they went and uplifted. Now, the project started because in the project, it was anticipated that a representative from the community would have been monitoring that project. But because the co-op stopped meeting, we could not have nominated that representative. I took it on myself to start liaising with the people who were doing the project. And I was told in no uncertain terms that the people on the council told them that they should not deal with me. And I pulled out. Because it doesn't make sense you go in and try to find out from somebody, and they're not telling you what is happening or what they have to do, how they're progressing. So, as I said, there are members of the council who knew those lands were not council lands. So there came, somebody advised them that the lands are council lands. I heard who advised them, and I will not want to call a
Right,
name now, but if
right,
press, I will
right.
call the name at a point. Because that same man was advising people in Seafield that they can squat on the lands that belong to ancestors there too. Right? So we leave it at that. So they knew. However, they called the council, the meeting. I told them that. They said, well, we can only do something if we see the documentation, transports. I said, people have their transports. Anyhow, at that first meeting, I was told that they will come back to us after finishing the other meeting, which should have been the Triumph meeting, but I could not have attend that meeting. I asked, I understand people told them the same thing at the Triumph meeting, that the lands are owned.
So what you are
So
saying
when,
here, Elton, is that there was foreknowledge, at least they
yes,
were told that these
yes, they
lands
could have
were owned.
investigated.
Right. Now, do you know whether the council, having heard this, took any step to ascertain whether this was true or not?
Now, a document was produced. The original grant documents were produced at the council table, and to demonstrate to the other councillors that the lands are owned by the council.
Mhm.
Now, I still have a problem with that. I'm saying whether or not whether it was not privately owned or owned by the council. Let's assume it was owned by the council. Who are the real owners? Who then are the real owners? The villagers. You then need to still consult the people before you make
Thank
a
you very
decision
much.
of this nature.
I don't know of any council who own any land. They manage
Right?
the land.
They manage our affairs. They don't
Right.
own it. So they took it on themselves, according to what they said. Council Comavach told me at the one I did the first or second council meeting that it is within their prerogative to sell or lease or do whatever it is those on those lands. Though I must reflect back on a direction that I understand the junior minister of local government told me last Sunday that he did send out, though I think that that directive came out this year. But he was saying he sent it out last year that there should be no leasing, no selling, nothing of state lands or communal lands. Right? So going forward, I think they knew.
Yes, all right, we have established that.
Pardon?
Let me ask you a question here. You know, you are a Black consciousness man. You know, you there's no shame. In fact, there is every honor on being conscious about your racial and ethnic origin. What are Black people doing selling land in Black communities when there is a demand for land in those villages, for housing, for farming?
Your audio is going.
You hearing me? No?
Please repeat. Your audio is gone.
My audio's gone. Are you hearing me? No? I am hearing you.
Your audio went. Your audio went.
Are you hearing
Please
me now?
repeat.
Are you hearing me now?
Please repeat the question. I did not get it.
No, I'm saying, Elton, you are a Black consciousness person.
No, I did not get. Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
I'm saying you're a Black consciousness person. I'm asking you to reflect on this question. What are Black people in 2022, 2021, 2020 doing selling village lands when there is a demand by villagers for land, for farming, especially for housing? What's going on? Reflect for me on what's going on. What's the mindset would push a set of Black leaders to sell village lands?
I don't know. I cannot get into that mindset, my brother. Dr. Hines, honestly, I cannot get into that mindset. What can be the driving force there? Save and accept that people just want to display their selfish greed, because there must be some motivation why they were so anxious to sell the land. And it brings me into a realm of assumptions, and I will not assume. I will not want to do that. I can say what I'm hearing on the streets, right? The people on the streets are saying somebody get bribed. People got bribed, but I cannot go there as a person yet because I do not have the evidence.
You don't have the evidence, and we cannot go, but it is a perplexing question, because with all the demand for land, especially for housing, you are selling those lands. Now, apparently John Finance learned that these lands were owned by individuals, and they got out of the arrangement. Am I correct?
Well, John Finance on Christmas Day, after a letter that I wrote to the press, made that announcement that, look, we give it up. We do. But yet, when I went to the council in January, I was challenged. John Finance never said so. Did they put it in writing? I said it was in the press. You can't take things in the press unless, that is the argument. You know, people are still arguing that they have the right to sell. And until John Finance indicates to them directly, they cannot back off. They should not back off. You know,
there was a bullishness. There was a bullishness about selling this land,
especially coming from Mr. Cumberbatch.
And
He
Mr.
was the
Cumberbatch is the PPP member
representative. Yes, one of the
on
PP
the council.
members on the council. He even said, no, his friend, the attorney general, advised him, and he's taking advice from the attorney general. He kept calling the man's name for whatever reason. If I cannot defend, I cannot say whether or not it is so, but that is what he kept doing. And
All
so
right.
I reflect back to Seafield when I keep hearing that name.
All right. So John Finance said they're no longer interested. What happened next?
Interested.
What happened next? Once
So
they said they
it
weren't
was now
interested.
for the council. The council was waiting on John Finance to approach them. I said, no, you guys don't have to do that. You go to John Finance. Eventually, again, based on a letter that I wrote, there was another. Now, the Stabrook News carried an editorial, and John Finance came out publicly again with an advertisement saying, hey, we don't want to touch this. We wash our hands, blah, 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 blah. So now, again, but asking them why don't they refund John? They said John Finance. There is some stipulated within governmental circles. I don't know the accounting regulations well because I've never done accounts as a profession. I've never worked in an accounting office where you cannot initiate a check unless there is a request, some paper trail to show it. That's what the overseer kept telling us, right? It was not until their backs were against the wall and a note was found that was lying at the regional democratic office for some time coming from the junior minister of local government that they felt they had authority now to follow up. By which time John Finance had already transferred this thing because in April or I think April month, I think, or May month, we saw, and after they wrote, I pushed them enough. They wrote John Finance in April, and instead of John Finance responding in May, they got this note from Mohammed's Sons and Daughters, and a long name, Logging and Timber Real Estate Company. Oh, I'm not supposed to be remembering all of that. All I will say, Mohammed's Sons and Daughters. Mohammed's Sons and Daughters on their letterhead indicating that they are now the owners of the deed. So we should communicate with them.
Which
At the
means that
council level,
John Finance seemed to be taking two positions. On the one hand, he said we're not going
saying,
through with this deal because
but in a
it's people private land.
hypocritical move,
But then
in
you
an
transfer. Walk us through
yes.
that.
Now, so we said this is not possible. So we asked that they write John Finance again. Now, the young lady who the CEO was on leave at the time, so the acting CEO, she instead of writing John Finance, wrote to Mohammed's Sons and Daughters. So we demanding a meeting. We turned up for the meeting. Instead of seeing John Finance's representative, we saw Mohammed's Sons and Daughters. In the interval, I took it on my own to approach John Finance. Mr. Gonzalez, Zach Gonzalez, refused to see me. We spoke on the phone. He agreed that I can call him the next day to continue the conversation. We continued the conversation. He had agreed to come to a council meeting. Right? He never turned up at that meeting. So we we went to this meeting, and here it was Mohammed's Sons and Daughters people there. So we decided we had no arrangement with Mohammed's Sons and Daughters. If John Finance really and truly respected us and they wanted to transfer the deed, they would have communicated with us, give us notification, but they did not. So it's all, and when you look at that deed transfer, there is no value assigned to the deed, how much they paid, how much Mohammed would have paid for that deed. It's just a no value something. So we said we will not deal with Mohammed. And on that date, the man who is the CEO for Mohammed threatened me. Elton McCrae threatened me. I made a mistake. I did not report it to the police then. And no, neither did I attempt to get him on, record him in his threat, ask him to repeat his threat. So, but I remember that threat, and I will look out for him if ever he comes or try to do anything to me.
So Elton,
Right. So
some people are saying, I heard the chairman of the NDC, the young man, Mr. Bagot, no?
yeah,
I heard Mr. Bagot on the Gildari Freddie Kissoon show, and he said, as far as he knows, the Mohammed and sons and daughters, it is a ghost form. They don't exist, or they exist in name only. There is no address, there is no nothing. Is that true? We seem to have lost Mr. McCrae there for a
well,
minute.
according to the Stabrook News, and I made a visit to that, to the address they gave, and it is I confirmed what the Stabrook News did display, that it was a bushed lot with a little structure on it, which seems abandoned, right? But
But you said you,
you know,
you said you were a
as
part
old
of
people
a
say, there's
meeting
more in the matter than the pistol.
than the
Let me
pistol.
keep with the
But
in the
you say you
matter.
were at a meeting with Mohammed's
No,
sons and
no.
daughters. Elton, you said you were at a meeting where Mohammed's sons and daughters were representatives of the company.
Yes.
No?
Yes, I heard you said you. Yes,
You seem to be having some
and
problems with your audio.
we refused to have that meeting. We refused to have that meeting with them because we
But
did not
real
have
people,
an arrangement
but
with them in
real
any way. So, but the
Elton,
fellow was
real
disturbed.
people, but real people turned up for that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we seem to be having some problems with Elton's audio. Um, I am hearing him very clearly. He seems to have
You
some
said
problems
real
hearing me.
people, and then it cut off. You said real
All
people,
right,
and it cuts off.
the real people turned up at the meeting that you attended, but and you were saying the
Yes.
meeting didn't take place, but there were real people there representing
Yeah.
Mohammed's sons and
Yes.
daughters.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
can't be a
But
ghost company.
We
Yes,
refused
but
to have that meeting.
I'm dealing with the issue, the suggestion that this is a ghost company.
Well, I cannot classify why the chairman said it's a ghost company. What I would say, it's maybe a shell company.
All right, a shell company. All
It's a
right.
shell. It
Now,
can be a shell company.
so
I will not call it a ghost company.
what is Mohammed's sons and daughters saying now? What they have this deed in their possession. What are they asking the council to do?
Now, according to John Finance's public pronouncement, is that they handed it over to to Mohammed's sons and daughters. They now come to the council and indicated that they have handed over the deeds to Mohammed's sons and daughters. Their rationale being that Mohammed's sons and daughters were the real estate agents through whom they dealt. So they gave back the real estate agent the thing, and the real estate agent paid them back their money, so they were refunded, according to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they knew who were the principals who signed the document, they should have found those principals, and because the council did write to them prior to them handing over back that handing the money over or prior to Mohammed's sons and daughters handing them those monies. So I, in my little corner, not being a legal luminary, would feel that if two principals met and agreed to something, and they now realize John Finance renounced on the purchase, the council is saying to John Finance, look, we cannot sell what we don't own. So it was normal for the two people to meet. The council been asking to meet them to chart a way forward for them to just exchange back whatever monies were paid. Instead, Mohammed, John Finance choose to accept monies from Mohammed's. I don't know what Mohammed's had in mind. I cannot read for Mohammed's. I'm not a soothsayer. But Mohammed's sons and daughters took the deed from John Finance, and now they are suing the company for want of conveyance. They want to have the transport for those lands, even though they are fully aware that the council do not own any lands there. Sorry, the council only owns 5 what we call beds. There are 233 beds in that section G of the 143 acres. So we're looking at approximately 0.61 of an acre. So if they own 5, then the council only have 3 acres, own 3 acres in the 143 acres.
So the matter is in court as we speak, no?
Yes, before the court. And that court day will be the 1st of November.
What are the dynamics of the case? What is it? What is the council interest in that case?
The council's position, as far as I know, that which was discussed at the council table, is that we do not have lands to sell. So we want to give John Finance their money. We attempted to give John Finance the money and they sent it back, as you know, from the press. So we want to give back that money, whether it's to John Finance or to Mohammed's sons and daughters, if they now hold the deed. We want the courts to assist us to do that. So the council, but the owners of those lands will join that case as interested parties, whatever they call it legally.
John Finance's interest in this case.
John Finance, the case is between the council and Mohammed's, but we would like to rope. I personally hope that we can get John Finance to sit in that hearing too. I don't know if it will be done. The lawyers will have to determine that. That is our village, the lawyer that will represent the villagers and the lawyer from the council. Because we went separate from the council. Because it was the council that caused us this grief. So we do not feel we should be sitting along with the council for now. Even though they supposedly, quote unquote, are on our side.
On our side now. The chairman of the council, Mr. Bagot, said that he was sorry, offered an apology, public apology, for the decision. Is that the sentiments expressed around the table? Is that the sentiment of other councillors who were part of the original deal?
Well, as I said, by and large, the councillors at the table, they're all appalled at this because they were led to believe that the lands were owned by the council and it was their right to participate in a sale. So by and large, councils are saying we need to get back, we need to recover what belongs to the people.
Elton, two questions. First of all, what are the people in BV saying about all of this? I mean, you're a man around the village. Tell us what you're hearing.
What I'm hearing, a lot of people are annoyed with the council. They are not even thinking of John Finance. The people are directing their angst against the council, right? They have an issue with the council. How could the council do that today? They voted for that council to represent them. And here it is, the council is selling out their birthrights. So the council is in a precarious position.
What are the lessons here for other villages?
Well, we are hoping that villagers in the other villages note that even though you may be voting for people to represent you, at times they see their self-interest as being superlative, as being more important than your interests. And you need to keep their feet to the fire at all times. You need to. The thing is, what I find not right is that when I went to the council, they felt that what is discussed at the council should be sacrosanct, secret affairs, is not I said we need to report to the village on a regular basis. Hence, I have started a bi-monthly program by way of Zoom and Facebook, which is called the Beefy Triumph Report on the second Sunday and the fourth Sunday. Second Sunday, the idea is to garner uh, queries which people may want to bring to the council table, ideas or so on, and the fourth Sunday to report back on those ideas, right? That is a normal situation. But since we have started, the major topic has always been that those land situations, because there are several other things that our council have done that are not in sync with the thinking of the community. For instance, our council have leased a road to Gaffurs.
Wow.
So we cannot walk along Battle Road to the public to the seawalls when Gaffur business is shut. They have a gate there.
Yes, I saw that. That is BV North.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Gaffur has claim over that. Villagers are not satisfied. Though when I first raised it among villagers, they were very nonchalant, so long as they ain't take me on. That kind of attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to be their brother's keepers. We need to watch out for what is happening around us, because, like the Jew, it will happen to them one day.
Monday. Elton McCrae, council member of the BV Triumph Neighborhood Council, the member, community activist, walking us through this land deal scandal in BV. It's not going away. It's not going away. The matter is now tied up in court, but it's a matter that goes to the very core of community, the very core of those communities. People's private lands, ancestral lands, and this whole thing about hustling money seems to have infected the institutions of governance. Some people will say it started at the top and it has trickled down or rushed down to the bottom. Elton McCrae, thank you, my brother, for coming on
Peace.
and helping us be part of this. Just when there are more developments, just let me know so that I can bring you back to update us on what's happening there. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to a wider audience, to let them understand what is happening in our communities. As I said, and as you have agreed, this is not a BV situation only. It is a situation which has happened in other communities and which is happening in many other communities. Situations like this are happening all over the country. We need to pay attention. It may not be 143 acres as in the case of BV, but people are grabbing our lands right in front of our eyes. And our councillors
You've continue.
and our councillors are, because let's go back again to BV. In the late 1980s, 1990s, we have a plot of land in BV over the north in Triumph, North Triumph, which some councillors leased to a fella because he came with a project which seemingly had a lot of merit and opportunities for the village. Subsequent to that, his principals told him, well, look, we can't deal with lease land, you got to own the land. So apparently, he then prescribed on those lands and people turned a blind eye to it. Now that man he never executed the project, but he's selling house lots today.
Yeah.
Villagers need to get on his back and get those lands back for the community.
Yeah.
I tried, I got 385 signatures at one time, took it to the then council, and the man said, in fact, I took the TV news station with me to film it. The man said, no, you can't bring TV in here. He then said, we will take the thing. And from my understanding, what came back to me is as soon as I went down the step, the man said, McCrae, mad. The man get transport, we can't do nothing with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Elton, I have had to deal with the same problem in Denham still. Almost identical. Sister Rhonda may be on. I can't see the comments on tonight because of a technical difficulty
No,
between
but I
StreamYard
actually
and Faith.
did try
But
to get it on Facebook to share, but I can't pick it up on
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah. But I'm saying that the identical problem you're going through there in BV, the same thing the people of Denham
Then I'm
still
saying,
have been going through the land. It's more than beefy. Thank you, my brother. And
thanks
I'll be in
very
touch
much
with
indeed.
you. And to you, our viewers, thank you all for staying with us. Thank you for continuing to show faith in our program. Tonight, as you have heard, we have problems in the African Guyanese community, serious problems that can only be attended to by the people of those villages. We've got to turn inward sometimes and pay attention to our communities. Good night, and I am going to be on with you again tomorrow night. We are going to try to deal with some of the issues, such as should the opposition contest the local government elections with the present list. We're going to also be discussing the issue of the Commission of inquiry into the elections. So tomorrow night, we are going to be on to continue the discussion. Until then, stay good and